On his 65th birthday, Oliver sat alone in his small Sarasota apartment, staring at the silent phone on his dining table. 3 place settings were arranged neatly, each one matching the precision he'd learned after 30 years of teaching. The silverware sat exactly 1 inch from the plates, and in the center of the table, an apple pie cooled slowly, filling the room with the smell of cinnamon and hope. Earlier that morning, he had dressed in his best navy slacks and white shirt, believing his daughter Anna would arrive for dinner. "She'll be here," he whispered to himself as he adjusted the candles on the pie. But as the sun dropped and the silence thickened, he knew something was wrong, something deeper than lateness. By 7 p.m., Oliver had already sent 2 gentle messages. "Dinner will be ready at 7, drive safe," he had typed, smiling at the thought of seeing Anna. But no reply came. At 7:15, he called, only to hear her cheerful voicemail greeting that felt far colder than usual. "Hi, sweetheart, just checking," he said softly before the beep cut him off. By 9 p.m., the food had gone cold, but Oliver stayed seated, watching the door with hopeful eyes. When his phone finally buzzed at 11:47, he grabbed it quickly, and his heart fell at Anna's message, "Sorry, couldn't make it. We'll stop by tomorrow." Oliver typed a reply, deleted it, typed again, deleted that too, then simply set the phone face down. "She's just tired," he whispered, though even he didn't believe it anymore. He rose slowly and began clearing the table, each movement heavy with disappointment. Beside him sat 2 neatly wrapped gifts, luxury watches he had bought for Anna and her husband Ethan, gifts worth nearly $800 from his modest pension. He had imagined their smiles, imagined laughter over dinner, imagined feeling like family again. Instead, he removed the candles from the birthday pie one by one, the ritual feeling like a quiet funeral for hope. Later that night, Oliver sat in his armchair holding an old photograph from brighter years. In the picture, Anna stood between him and his late wife Marie, all 3 glowing in the golden sunset at Siesta Key Beach. "Where did that girl go?" he whispered to the empty room, remembering the child who once begged him to bake this very pie every Sunday. Unable to bear the ache in his chest, he placed the photo face down and walked into his small home office. From the desk drawer, he pulled a sealed manila envelope containing the one secret Anna never knew, the inheritance of $30 million left to him 2 months earlier. "I was going to give you half," he murmured, staring at the envelope. "But maybe it's time you learned what you lost." The next morning, Oliver drove to the house he had gifted Anna 5 years earlier, a house he had built with love and long weekends of sweat. But when she opened the door, her expression flickered from surprise to irritation before settling into a polite mask. "Dad, you're here," she said without warmth. She handed him a small box with a rushed smile. Inside was a one-way plane ticket. "Happy flight, Dad," she added, almost rehearsed. Ethan stepped into the doorway behind her, barefoot, wearing a watch worth more than Oliver's entire car. He laughed and said, "Time to see the world, Oliver." The cruelty was clear now. This wasn't a gift. It was a dismissal. A push out of their lives. Oliver folded the ticket slowly, pressing each crease with calm hands, though inside him a storm gathered. "Thank you for the gift, Anna," he said quietly, his voice steady but distant. She shrugged as if nothing unusual had happened. "You've been cooped up too long, Dad. A trip will do you good." Ethan added, "Yeah man, retirement should be adventures, not sitting around." Oliver nodded once and walked down the porch steps he had built himself 17 years earlier. As he reached his car, he saw them through the rearview mirror, Anna whispering something to Ethan, and Ethan laughing like he had just won a prize. Driving away, Oliver gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles paled. They truly believed he would vanish quietly. They believed the old man with a small pension would simply accept the insult and disappear. But they didn't know what sat in the safe inside his small apartment. They didn't know he carried $30 million that he had planned to share with them. At a stoplight, he opened the glove compartment and placed the folded ticket inside. "Evidence," he whispered. "You'll learn exactly what this cost you." Back in his apartment, Oliver brewed coffee with steady, practiced movements. He sat at his small kitchen table, staring at the fireproof safe beside him. Finally, he turned the dial, 07, then 15, then 42, and opened it. Inside lay things that had once meant life: Marie's ring, his father's pocket watch, treasured papers from decades of work. Beneath them rested the inheritance envelope marked estate of William Parker. Oliver spread the papers across the table, reading again the words he had memorized. Sole beneficiary. $30 million, he whispered. And I was ready to give you half. He reached for a yellow legal pad, the same kind he used during 30 years of teaching. At the top, he wrote one simple word: project. Under it, he listed his goals: discover their debts, understand their motives, and confirm the truth behind their attempt to remove him. When did they plan this? He muttered as he wrote. The answer chilled him, long before his birthday. He drew a line under the list, tapped his pen twice, and whispered, "Time to find out who my daughter has become, and who I need to become in return." Over the next 2 weeks, Oliver turned into a quiet investigator. He visited libraries, researched property law, and studied Florida's rules on life estates, the rights he still held on the house he had gifted Anna. He called multiple detective agencies, rejecting most until he found one that felt professional and precise. At Pinkerton, he met Marcus Gray, a sharp-eyed investigator who listened without judgment as Oliver explained his suspicions. "I need the truth," Oliver said simply. Marcus nodded, sliding a contract across the table. "Then I'll get you the truth." Oliver signed, sealing the start of a journey his daughter never saw coming. Marcus began his investigation immediately, gathering public records, observing their routines, and studying their financial history. Oliver stayed busy with calm, ordinary days, but beneath that calm lived a rising clarity. Every grocery trip, every walk around the block, every cup of coffee reminded him how easily he could have become helpless if he'd had no resources. Meanwhile, Anna sent only one message: "Did you use the ticket?" He didn't reply. For the first time in years, Oliver allowed silence to stand as truth. And that silence began to speak louder than anything he could say. 2 weeks later, Marcus called. "Mr. Oliver, I have results you need to see in person." The tone alone told Oliver everything. This wasn't small news. At the office, Marcus laid out documents, credit reports, bank statements, and detailed notes on Anna and Ethan's financial behavior. "They're drowning in debt," Marcus said, tapping a page. $180,000. And based on overheard conversations, they planned to sell the house as soon as you were gone. Oliver didn't move. Didn't blink. "Show me," he whispered. Marcus pressed play on an audio recording. Bar noise filled the speakers, then Ethan's voice rose above it, unmistakable. "Old man's taking a permanent vacation. We'll clear everything once he's out." Laughter followed, sharp and cruel. "House is worth at least $850, Ethan continued. "Easy money." Marcus paused the audio. "This conversation happened 1 week after your birthday." Oliver felt something cold settle inside his chest. Not anger, not sadness, but a hard, steady understanding. "They were waiting for me to disappear," he said quietly. Marcus nodded. "Yes. And they expected you not to fight." Back home, Oliver sat with the evidence spread across his kitchen table. The one-way ticket. The recording. The debt documents. The inheritance papers. And beneath all of it, his daughter's quiet betrayal. "A burden," he murmured. That's all they saw. He ran his fingers over Marie's old ring inside the safe and felt her presence like a gentle reminder. "Do what's right," he imagined her saying. So Oliver picked up the phone and dialed a property attorney. The time for quiet waiting had passed. Now it was time to act. Attorney Daniel Hart met him that afternoon, reviewing each document with careful precision. "You still hold a life estate," Daniel explained, circling the clause. "That means they can't sell the house without your consent." Oliver nodded. "They planned to push me away and sell it the moment they thought I was gone." Daniel tapped the one-way ticket gently. "This is evidence of constructive eviction, a deliberate attempt to remove you." Oliver lifted his eyes. "So I can take back the house?" Daniel nodded. "Yes. With this evidence, absolutely." The next morning, Oliver woke before sunrise, feeling something he hadn't felt in months: purpose. He brewed coffee, opened the curtains, and watched Sarasota's sky lighten slowly. "Marie," he whispered, "I'm doing this for dignity." At his desk, he began drafting a new will, one that removed Anna entirely. If she could discard him so easily, then she didn't deserve the future he'd hoped to give her. "I taught responsibility for 30 years, Oliver said to the quiet room. "Now I'll teach it one more time." For the next week, he finalized everything with Daniel: new estate paperwork, legal protections, and revocation documents ready to file. He felt no rush, only certainty. Meanwhile, Anna continued calling, first casually, then urgently, then with a trembling voice that finally hinted at fear. "Dad, please call me back," one message said. "We need to talk." Oliver read every message but replied to none. She hadn't worried when he sat alone on his birthday. She hadn't worried when she handed him a one-way ticket. Now she would learn what worry felt like. Then came the message that revealed everything. "Dad, please. Ethan and I need to talk to you. It's important." Oliver knew what important meant now: debt, desperation, a collapsing plan. Still, he remained silent. They had shown him the value of his presence only when they thought he was powerless. Now they would see him with strength. Meanwhile, Daniel prepared the final revocation documents. "Once we file these, they'll receive an eviction notice," Daniel explained. Oliver simply nodded. "Let the law speak for me." But Oliver knew the ending shouldn't be pure punishment. It needed meaning, closure, dignity. So he made a decision. Before filing anything, he would meet Anna face to face, one final conversation to determine whether she deserved mercy or consequence. "If there is remorse," Oliver said to Daniel, "I want to see it in her eyes, not in a text message." Daniel agreed. "Then let's set the meeting. You decide the outcome afterward." Oliver exhaled slowly. Yes. It's time. He sent Anna a short message: "Meet me tomorrow at Daniel Hart's office. Bring Ethan. Do not be late." She replied in less than a minute. "Yes, Dad. We'll be there. Thank you. Thank you." Oliver placed his phone down gently. Outside, the evening sun cast a warm glow across his quiet apartment. Everything was ready: his evidence, his will, his resolve. Whatever happened in that meeting would shape the final chapter of their relationship. And Oliver was prepared for either forgiveness or the end. The next afternoon, Oliver arrived early at Daniel's office, choosing a seat at the far end of the conference table. The blinds were half open, letting warm Florida sunlight paint long stripes across the polished surface. Daniel reviewed the documents one final time. "Whatever you choose today," he said, "you'll be acting from strength." Oliver nodded silently. A few minutes later, he heard footsteps in the hallway, slow, hesitant. Anna entered first, eyes red from crying. Ethan followed, shoulders tense, jaw tight, looking more defensive than remorseful. "Dad," Anna whispered, her voice trembling as she sat across from him. Ethan didn't speak. He simply crossed his arms and leaned back. Oliver kept his expression calm. "You both know why we're here." Anna nodded immediately, but Ethan shrugged like the situation still annoyed him. Daniel slid the agreement toward them. "Before anything else," Daniel said, "Mr. Oliver wants to hear your explanation. Honest explanation. No rehearsed lines." Anna took a long breath. "Dad. I'm ashamed. We were drowning in debt, and Ethan snapped, 'Don't blame me.'" Oliver raised a hand. "Stop." His voice was quiet, but the room froze. "I want the truth from both of you." Anna broke down. She admitted the debt, the pressure, the fights, and how she convinced herself the one-way ticket was a harmless idea. "I thought you'd enjoy a trip," she whispered weakly. Oliver shook his head. "You gave me a way out of your life. That wasn't a trip." Ethan glared at the table, offering no apology. His silence cut deeper than any excuse Anna offered. The truth was clear without being spoken. Daniel opened a folder and placed a printed transcript of the bar recording in front of Ethan. "Do you deny saying this?" Ethan stiffened as he read his own words. "Old man's taking a permanent vacation. We'll clear everything once he's out." Anna's face crumpled. "Ethan, you said this?" He didn't answer. Oliver leaned forward slightly. "I trusted you with my home. My memories. My daughter." Ethan looked up only to mutter, "People talk when they drink." Oliver replied softly, "People reveal truth when they drink." Daniel laid out 2 documents side by side. "Here are your options," he said. Document 1, an agreement with strict conditions: therapy, employment, monthly rent, accountability. Anna listened intently, hope flickering in her eyes. Document 2, Daniel continued, revocation of the house. If signed, you lose the property within 30 days. Ethan clenched his jaw. This is blackmail. Daniel responded calmly, no. This is consequence, legally supported. Oliver folded his hands. Anna, you may choose your path. But understand this, trust broken takes years to repair. Anna reached for the first document immediately, hands shaking. Dad, I'll do anything. I want to fix this. But Ethan grabbed her wrist hard. Don't sign. He's punishing us. We can fight this. Anna pulled her hand away. Fight what, Ethan? We did this. Tears streamed down her cheeks. She picked up the pen. Dad, I'm sorry. With trembling strokes, she signed her name on all 3 pages. Ethan stared at her like she had betrayed him, then with a loud sigh, scrawled his signature beside hers. Daniel gathered the documents, stamped them, and placed them into orderly stacks. This agreement is now legally binding, he said. Therapy begins next week. Rent payment is due on the 15th. And Ethan, full-time employment within 30 days. Ethan muttered under his breath, but Daniel ignored him. Anna looked at her father with pleading eyes. Dad, is this the beginning of forgiveness? Oliver studied her face. For a moment, he saw the little girl who once clung to his arm at the beach. Then he looked at Ethan and remembered the recording. Time will tell, he answered calmly. For the next month, Anna tried hard to keep the agreement. She showed up for therapy sessions, took notes, and even called Oliver once just to say, "Thank you for giving me a chance." Ethan, however, treated the agreement like an inconvenience. He arrived late to therapy, offered no honest answers, and rolled his eyes every time accountability was mentioned. Though he found a job, he complained constantly, acting as if work was an insult. Meanwhile, Oliver watched quietly from a distance, waiting to see whether real change would come, or if this was only temporary performance. Then came the moment that revealed the truth. Daniel called Oliver one afternoon. "I thought you should know," he said, "Ethan has been meeting with another attorney." Oliver closed his eyes slowly. "For what purpose?" Daniel sighed. "To challenge your new will. He's claiming he can argue diminished capacity because of your age." The irony struck Oliver sharply, Ethan pretending concern while plotting to take everything. Oliver responded with quiet disappointment. "So even after the agreement, he chooses deceit." Daniel asked, "Do you want to proceed with the house revocation?" Oliver whispered, "Yes. It's time." The court hearing was swift and revealing. The judge reviewed the evidence, the recording, the one-way ticket, the debt documents, and the attempted will challenge. Anna cried through most of it, realizing the gravity of what she and Ethan had done. Ethan tried to argue, but every word only dug the hole deeper. When the judge delivered her decision, her voice was firm. "The house is hereby revoked and returned to Mr. Oliver." Anna covered her mouth in shock. Ethan stared in disbelief. Oliver simply closed his eyes, letting the weight of years lift from his shoulders. When the hearing ended, Anna walked toward Oliver slowly, her hands shaking. "Dad, I never meant for things to go this far," she whispered. Oliver looked at her, not with anger, not with softness, but with the calm clarity of someone who had finally accepted the truth. "Intentions don't erase actions," he said gently. Ethan stormed out of the courtroom without a glance back. The distance between all 3 of them felt wide as an ocean. Anna reached for Oliver's hand, but he didn't lift his own. "Healing," he said, "is something you will have to seek for yourself." Over the following weeks, Oliver finalized the sale of the house he had once given to Anna. The buyer paid in cash, the process smooth and without complication. Every box packed from that home felt like a chapter finally closing. Oliver used part of the funds to establish the Marie Foundation, named after his late wife, a program dedicated to helping seniors facing neglect or family pressure. "If my suffering can protect someone else," he told Daniel, "then it wasn't wasted." Daniel nodded with quiet respect. "Your wife would be proud." Meanwhile, Anna moved into a small rental apartment after Ethan left the relationship entirely. Their partnership had cracked under the weight of consequences they never expected to face. For the first time in years, Anna lived without comfort, without shortcuts, and without the illusion that others would fix her mistakes. She attended therapy alone now, slowly facing her choices. Some nights she cried remembering her father's warm kitchen, the apple pie, and the invitations she ignored. I did this, she repeated quietly, learning accountability the hardest way possible. Oliver, however, found a new rhythm in life. He purchased a quiet cottage near the beach, a modest place with soft blue walls and wide windows that welcomed morning light. The sound of waves rolling across the sand became his new peace. He filled the cottage with books, photographs of Marie, and fresh flowers he bought every Friday at the market. Neighbors came to know him as the gentle, thoughtful man with kind eyes. When they asked what brought him to the coast, he simply said, "A new beginning." One evening, while watching the sunset paint the water gold, Oliver received a letter in the mail. The handwriting was familiar, small, neat, and trembling. It was from Anna. Inside was a simple message: "I know I cannot undo what I did, but I am learning who I became and why. Thank you for giving me consequences instead of silence. If you ever want to talk again, I will be here. I love you." Oliver read it twice, then folded it carefully. He made no immediate decision, choosing instead to let time guide him. As the foundation began its work, Oliver spent hours speaking with seniors who had experienced abandonment or manipulation. Their stories moved him deeply, each one echoing pieces of his own pain. "You survived," he would tell them. "And now you will rise." The local community quickly recognized the foundation's impact. Donations grew, volunteers joined, and the mission expanded. Oliver never mentioned his daughter's betrayal, but he always spoke passionately about dignity, respect, and the right of every elder to feel valued. Healing others became part of healing himself. Months passed, and Oliver found himself settling into a gentle, peaceful routine. Morning walks along the shoreline, afternoons reading on the porch, evenings watching the sky fade into soft purples and blues. He still thought of Anna, sometimes with sadness, sometimes with hope, but not with anger anymore. He knew forgiveness wasn't a door you forced open, it was a quiet path one stepped toward slowly. Sometimes he wondered whether she would someday earn a place in his life again. But he no longer felt obligated. His peace no longer depended on her choices. One quiet afternoon, Oliver attended a community event hosted by his foundation. As he spoke to a small group of seniors, one woman asked, "What made you start this?" Oliver paused, smiling softly. "Because I learned," he said, "that respect is not automatic. And everyone, especially in their later years, deserves to feel safe." After the event, a young volunteer approached him. "Mr. Oliver," she said, "you've changed so many lives already." Oliver nodded, his voice warm. "I'm just giving back what experience taught me." And for the first time in years, he felt whole. Later that night, Oliver stood on the balcony of his cottage, listening to the waves whisper against the shore. He held Anna's letter in his hand again, reading it under the soft glow of the porch light. He didn't know whether their bond would ever return, and he didn't rush his feelings. But he whispered into the quiet air, "Maybe someday." The moon reflected on the waves like silver threads of possibility. Oliver breathed deeply, grateful, not for what he lost, but for what he found within himself. And so, Oliver's story settled into its final chapter, not with revenge, but with clarity and dignity. His daughter learned the cost of selfish choices, and Oliver learned the power of boundaries. The 30 million he once planned to share became a tool for change, a legacy honoring Marie and protecting countless others. Standing by the ocean he now called home, Oliver felt no bitterness. Only peace. Life didn't end at 65, he murmured. It began. And as the sun set slowly over the horizon, he knew he had finally written his own ending.